Picture this. The three judges are huddled together, their faces twisted in a look of agonizing anticipation that's so over the top, it's almost funny. The head judge, a woman in a gaudy witch's hat, points a finger at us, then across the lawn at this chaotic, moving blob of color and cardboard. We can't hear her over the frantic thumping in our ears, but her face is a mask of pure indecision. She throws her hands up and turns to the other two judges, who look just as tormented. We cut to a tight shot of our proton packs. The lights are blinking in that perfect, hypnotic rhythm. They are movie accurate, like we just walked off the set of the '84 classic. Then a quick shot of our competition. It's a blur of motion, a human caterpillar of fake legs and painted-on screams, all housed within a structure that just doesn't make sense. It's a roller coaster, a literal human-powered roller coaster. A title card flashes on screen. We thought we had the contest in the bag. The card vanishes, and you see the four of our faces, mouths open, eyes wide with the same silent thought. We are in very, very deep trouble. And that's when my voice kicks in. To understand how we got here, how we ended up in a showdown with a fully functional amusement park ride, we have to go back. 3 weeks, to be exact. Back to a time when we were confident, cocky even. A time before we knew about the Millers. It all started, like most great and terrible ideas, around the kitchen table. We were still haunted by the ghosts of Halloween's past. There was the year we were a pretty generic zombie family, which earned us a polite nod and a third-place ribbon that felt more like a "you tried" sticker. And then there was the infamous garden gnomes incident, which we all took a solemn vow to never speak of again. I'm just saying, I started, swirling what was left of my coffee. This is the year. This is the year we finally do it. We win. Not third place. Not most enthusiastic. We take the whole thing. The grand prize, the trophy, the glory, the neighborhood bragging rights for 365 days. My wife, Sarah, leaned back, a skeptical but curious smile on her face. And how do you plan on doing that, Tom? Our track record isn't exactly amazing. The Hendersons won last year by dressing up as the entire cast of The Wizard of Oz. They had a real dog, Tom. That was a cheap trick, I shot back, maybe a little too quickly. Toto was a gimmick. This year, we win on pure, undeniable craftsmanship. Our teenage son, Leo, didn't even look up from his phone. Can we be something cool? Like, actually cool? Not gnomes. Never again, we all muttered in unison. I want to be a princess, chirped Mia, our 8-year-old. A zombie princess. See? That's good. That's a mashup, I said, pointing at her with a teaspoon. It's about being original. We need a theme. Something epic. Something that screams, we didn't just buy this at a party store an hour ago. We tossed around the usual ideas. Superheroes? Overdone. Every year has at least 3 Batmans of varying quality. Harry Potter? The research said it was a good one, but the Baileys down the street are massive Potterheads. It felt like stepping on their turf. Leo sighed dramatically and finally put his phone face down. Look, if we're going to do a group thing, it has to have cool gear. Something we can build. Otherwise, what's the point? And that was it. That was the spark. Sarah's eyes lit up. Gear? What kind of gear? I leaned forward, the idea hitting me, fully formed and glorious. Not just gear, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. Proton packs. A beat of silence. Leo's head snapped up, genuinely interested for the first time. Mia tilted her head. Sarah's smile widened. No way, Leo breathed. Yes, way, I said. Think about it. It's a group. It's iconic. It's got props. It's got a uniform. Who doesn't love a good uniform? We could build the packs, Leo asked, his skepticism now replaced with the energy of 1,000 YouTube tutorials. With, lights and everything? With lights and sounds and whatever other doodads we can cram in there, I said, feeling the momentum. We get khaki jumpsuits, get custom patches made online. We can build a ghost trap. Mia, you can help me make a PKE meter. We could even have our own ghost. Mia, who had been listening closely, finally got it. Like Slimer? Exactly like Slimer. And just like that, it was decided. This year, we weren't just a family in costumes. We were a team. We were paranormal investigators. We were the Ghostbusters. And we were going to be unstoppable. The trophy was as good as ours. The next day, Operation Trophy Quest was a go. Our first stop was the internet, a deep, deep rabbit hole of fan forums, prop building tutorials, and 3D printing files. We were instantly overwhelmed, and then instantly inspired. People have dedicated years to perfecting these things. The detail was insane. Okay, I announced, showing the family my laptop. This is what the pros do. They use PVC pipes, plastic sheets, and a bunch of random parts called greeblies. Apparently, that's a real word. Leo was already sketching in a notebook. The cyclotron needs 4 blue LEDs, and the power cell needs a strip of red ones that move. I saw a tutorial. We can wire it to a battery pack inside. Sarah was on another computer, totally focused. I found a place that sells the flight suits, authentic color and everything, and I can get custom name patches. Who's being who? We need to decide. That sparked a debate. I, as the visionary, obviously claimed Venkman. Leo, the tech whiz, was a clear Egon. Sarah, the heart of our team, chose Ray. And Mia, with her boundless energy, was the perfect Winston. We had our team. The weekend was a blur that started at the hardware store. Our cart was a bizarre mix of plumbing fixtures, electrical boxes, wires, and spray paint. We looked like we were either planning a very strange home repair or plotting to overthrow a small government. The cashier gave us a long look as he scanned a roll of tubing and a box of switches. "Big project?" he asked. "You have no idea," I replied with a grin. Back home, the garage became our workshop. It was beautiful, productive chaos. We laid out all our parts on a tarp, like surgeons preparing for a major operation. I cut the basic frames of the proton packs from MDF board with a jigsaw, filling the air with the smell of sawdust and ambition. I spent a whole afternoon wrestling with PVC pipes for the wands, trying to get the angles just right. I glued my fingers together twice. Meanwhile, Sarah became a master of weathering, taking pristine khaki jumpsuits and making them look like they'd survived a run-in with a Class 5 ghost. She used a mix of sandpaper, watered-down acrylic paint, and a whole lot of patience. Leo was in his element. He sat at a makeshift electronics bench with a soldering iron and a look of intense focus, patiently threading wires and connecting LEDs. The first time the cyclotron lights blinked to life in the right sequence, he let out a whoop of triumph that echoed through the house. It felt like we had discovered fire. "It works. Look," he yelled, holding it up. We all gathered around, mesmerized by the simple, blinking blue lights. It was a small victory, but it was proof that our crazy idea was actually happening. I remember thinking about a week into the build, this is a lot of work. So much more work than I think any of us expected. My back hurts, there's paint on everything, and I'm pretty sure I permanently smell like super glue. But look at this. I'd hold up a half-finished pack. This is starting to look like the real deal. The Millers in their store-bought costumes won't know what hit them. Mia was in charge of our secret weapon, Slimer. We started with a giant green yoga ball and, through a messy, hilarious process of papier-mâché and mountains of glue, a surprisingly charming and gross ghost began to take shape. She gave him a wide, toothy grin and big, dopey eyes. He was perfect. The days blurred into a montage of construction. There were frustrating moments, like when a batch of resin for small parts refused to cure, leaving us with a sticky, useless mess. And there were funny moments, like when I accidentally spray painted my own shoes black. But with each day, the pieces came together. The packs were assembled, painted, and detailed. The wands were attached. The lights were installed. The uniforms were weathered. We weren't just a family anymore. We were a well-oiled machine, churning out high-end paranormal elimination gear. And the closer we got, the more our confidence soared. This wasn't just a costume. It was a work of art, a statement. There was no way anyone else in the neighborhood could have possibly put in this much effort. We were sure of it. The day of the contest was crisp and cool, with the smell of burning leaves and pumpkin spice in the air. Halloween. The energy in our house was electric. It was game day. "All right, team, it's time," I announced, clapping my hands. "Let's get ready to bust some heads," metaphorically. We laid out all the components in the living room. It was the first time we'd seen it all together. 4 flight suits, 4 hefty proton packs, a ghost trap, a PKE meter, and one very green, very slimy-looking ghost. The suiting up process was an event. Stepping into the flight suit felt like putting on a uniform for battle. Zipping it up felt final. "Okay, name patches look good," Sarah said, inspecting everyone. "Venkman, Stantz, Spengler, Zeddemore. We're official." Then came the packs. They were heavy, heavier than I'd expected. As Leo helped me hoist mine on, the reality of it hit me. "Whoa," I grunted, adjusting the weight. "Okay, this is substantial. This feels real." Leo grinned, shrugging into his own pack. "That's the point. It's full of unlicensed nuclear accelerator technology. We all helped each other get geared up. It was a team effort, just like the build. Once we were ready, we stood in a line, facing the big mirror in the hallway, and we were silent. It had worked. It had worked better than any of us had dared to hope. We didn't look like a family in costumes. We looked like the Ghostbusters. All the little details we'd agonized over, the sticker placement, the motherboard color, the scuff marks, it all came together to create something incredible. "Guys," Sarah said softly, "we look amazing." "We look," Leo said with a rare note of awe in his voice, "legit." Mia was bouncing on her feet, her pack looking adorably huge on her. "Can we go now? Can we go show everyone?" I gave my reflection a confident Venkman-style smirk. "All right, you heard her. Let's go show these people what a real costume looks like. Don't cross the streams." We grabbed our gear and stepped out the front door. The walk to the neighborhood park for the contest felt like a victory lap before the race had even started. People stopped and stared. A car slowed down, the driver yelling, "Who you gonna call?" We all yelled, "Ghostbusters!" back. Kids pointed. Mr. Henderson, of last year's Wizard of Oz victory, was raking leaves. He just stopped, leaned on his rake, and shook his head with a smile. "Okay," he called out, "you guys win." Our confidence, already high, went through the roof. This was a lock. I was already planning where the trophy would go. Definitely the mantelpiece. "I'm telling you," I said to Sarah as we turned the corner. "There's no competition. We are in a league of our own this year, and that's when we saw it. At first, it didn't register. It was just a big crowd, bigger than usual, gathered at the end of the street in front of the Miller's house. We could hear laughing and a few gasps. "What's going on over there?" Leo asked. As we got closer, the crowd parted a little, and our confident chatter just died. All four of us stopped walking. There, in the middle of the street, was the Miller family. All 6 of them. But they weren't just in costume. They were part of a single massive moving thing. They had built a roller coaster. I don't mean a flat sign that said roller coaster. I mean a 3-dimensional wearable illusion. The track was a light wooden frame, painted to look like red steel, rising and falling. Each of the 6 Millers was inside a small cart attached to the frame. But the genius part, the thing that broke everyone's brain, was the fake legs. Each person had dummy legs dangling over the side of their cart, so it looked like they were sitting down. Their real legs were hidden, powering the whole thing. And they were moving, as a unit. They'd shuffle forward, then sway hard to one side like they were taking a sharp turn. They'd all lean back with terrified faces as they crested a hill. Mr. Miller, at the front, was dressed as a ride operator and would yell, "Hands in the air!" And they'd all throw their arms up and scream. It was engineering. It was performance art. It was brilliant. My jaw hit the floor. I looked at Sarah. Her mouth was a perfect O of disbelief. Leo's face was a mix of horror and deep respect. Mia just pointed, her hand trembling a little. "What is that?" The swagger we had a minute ago just evaporated. The proton pack on my back suddenly felt 100 pounds heavier. We were the Ghostbusters, a perfect, detailed homage to a classic movie. They were a theme park. We shuffled to the side, suddenly feeling very self-conscious. The admiring looks from people now felt like pity. "Okay," I said, trying to rally the troops, my voice barely a whisper. "Don't panic. Nobody panic." "I think it's a little late for that, Dad," Leo said, his eyes glued to the human roller coaster. They built a moving ride with fake legs. How do we compete with fake legs? "We compete with craftsmanship," I insisted, trying to convince myself more than anyone. "Look at our packs. Look at the detail. That's just cardboard and paint." "This," I said, patting my proton pack, "is art." Sarah put a hand on my arm. "Tom, their cardboard and paint is moving in perfect unison and creating a flawless optical illusion. We need to be realistic. This is stiff competition." "We're doomed," Leo muttered. I pulled them into a huddle. "No, we are not doomed. We are the Ghostbusters. We have bled for this. We have inhaled an unhealthy amount of spray paint for this. We are not going to be intimidated by the human centipede's family-friendly cousin. We just have to step up our game. We perform. Let the judges decide. Craftsmanship versus gimmicks." I wasn't sure if they believed me. I wasn't sure I believed me. But as we watched the Miller coaster do another synchronized sway to a round of applause, I knew one thing for sure. Our victory parade had just been canceled. We were the underdogs now. The cul-de-sac was a festival of creative chaos. Music was playing, kids were running everywhere, and the costumes were out in force. I saw a truly terrifying Pennywise, a family of zombies, and even a guy dressed as a functioning male adult, which was just a clean shirt and a look of quiet desperation that felt a little too real. But it was clear there were only two real contenders. The entire party revolved around two poles, us, Team Ghostbusters, and them, Team Rollercoaster. We had to perform. We couldn't just stand there. "All right, team, spread out," I commanded, getting into character. "Standard paranormal sweep. Egon, get a reading." Leo snapped right into it. He pulled out the PKE meter we'd built, its little wings twitching. He made the beeping noises himself, his voice getting higher and faster as he got closer to a decorative skeleton. "Getting high levels of psychokinetic energy over here, Venkman," he announced, his voice flat and serious. "Definitely a class 3, maybe a class 4. Sarah and I unhooked our proton wands with a satisfying clunk. We started a slow, methodical patrol of the lawn, scanning for ghosts. It was working. A small crowd started to form around us. People loved the props. "Did you guys really build these?" one guy asked, his eyes wide. Every last nut and bolt, I said proudly. Took about 3 weeks. He shook his head in admiration. That is incredible. The detail is just wow. We posed for a ton of photos. Kids especially loved it. For a few glorious minutes I let myself believe again. Maybe craftsmanship would win. Maybe detail did matter more than a big, flashy gimmick. And then I'd hear it. A wave of laughter and applause from the other side of the lawn. I'd look over and see the Miller's roller coaster cresting another imaginary hill. Hands in the air. Faces a perfect blend of joy and terror. They were a spectacle. While we were a static photo op, they were a dynamic experience. The 3 judges began their rounds. They spent a long time with us. Mark, the artist, was practically drooling over our props. This weathering, he said, gently running a finger over a scuff mark on my pack. It tells a story. And the electronics? Leo, right? Tell me about the board you used. Leo launched into a technical explanation that Mark ate up. They were impressed. Genuinely impressed. My hope flared up again. The sheer obsessive detail had to give us the edge. Then they moved on to the Millers. We watched as they laughed at the synchronized swaying. We saw Mark examining the construction. We saw Dave, last year's winner, actually get in one of the carts, his own legs shuffling along with the Miller clan. He was giggling like a schoolboy. My heart sank. Judges aren't supposed to giggle. After what felt like forever, they retreated to a picnic table to deliberate. The minutes ticked by. 5, 10. The world had shrunk to that single table. I remember my heart was pounding out of my chest. How can you possibly choose between these 2 things? It's like judging a fine oil painting against a Broadway musical. It's apples and moving oranges that are also a roller coaster. Sarah came over, her face tense. I'm just so proud of what we built, no matter what, she said, her voice a little shaky. But look at their faces. They are completely stumped. Honestly, their costume is sick, Leo admitted, but ours is a classic. The detail is insane. They're judging on craftsmanship, right? We have to have the edge there. This was it. The moment of truth. Before they announce it, you have to tell us. Who do you think should have won? Team Ghostbusters, with our movie-accurate props and obsessive detail? Or Team Rollercoaster, with their incredible illusion and hilarious performance? Drop a comment below right now and let us know. Brenda stood up and walked to the microphone. A piercing squeal of feedback cut through the air, silencing everyone. The showdown was over. It was time for the judgment. Brenda cleared her throat. Wow, she began. Just wow. In 10 years of judging this contest, we have never had a decision this difficult. She paused. My hand found Sarah's. It was ice cold. On the one hand, Brenda continued, gesturing to us, we have the most incredible display of craftsmanship, detail, and dedication we have ever seen. The Ghostbusters. A healthy round of applause went up. My heart was a jackhammer. The work that went into these props, she went on. the movie accuracy, the electronics. It is, without exaggeration, professional grade, breathtaking. My hope surged. Professional grade, breathtaking. Those are winning words. And on the other hand, she said, turning to the Millers, we have something else. A feat of engineering, teamwork, and pure, unadulterated creativity. The roller coaster. Another huge round of applause. Maybe a little louder this time. My stomach did a flip. The sheer originality, Brenda gushed. The flawless execution, the hilarious performance. It's a showstopper. You didn't just wear a costume, you created an experience. She looked back and forth between us one last time. We debated for a very, very long time. We even discussed calling it a tie. A tie. I could live with a tie. But a decision had to be made, she said. And so, by the slimmest of margins, the winner of the 2025 Neighborhood Halloween Costume Contest is the Miller family's roller coaster. The crowd exploded in cheers for the Millers. For a split second, a sharp pang of disappointment hit me. All that work, the glued fingers, the paint fumes, the late nights. But then I looked at the Millers. They were hugging, jumping up and down in their ridiculous, brilliant contraption. Their kids were screaming with joy. And I looked at their costume again. Their impossible, hilarious, genius costume. And I smiled. A genuine smile. The disappointment vanished, replaced by a deep respect. We had lost, but we had lost to something truly special. I turned to my family. Sarah had a similar look. Leo was already shrugging with a small, impressed grin. Okay, he said. That's fair. They deserved it, Sarah said, and she meant it. Come on, I said, clapping their shoulders. Let's go congratulate them. We walked over, our heavy pack suddenly feeling a lot lighter. Mr. Miller, his face flushed with victory, came forward. You guys were robbed, he said, shaking my hand. Seriously, those packs are a work of art. Are you kidding? I laughed. You built a moving ride. You deserve this. How on earth did you even come up with this? And just like that, the rivalry was gone. We spent the next 15 minutes getting a tour of the roller coaster, learning about the frame, the fake legs, and the hours they'd spent practicing their sways. It was even more brilliant up close. The next day, we were all piled on the couch, nursing a candy hangover. The proton packs were lined up against the wall like trophies. Which, in a way, they were. So, I began, speaking to our camera. As you saw, we didn't get the win. And yeah, for a second, it was disappointing. We poured weeks of our lives into those costumes. Sarah nodded. But honestly, how can you be mad about losing to a roller coaster? It was one of the most creative things I've ever seen. They deserved it. They raised the bar for the whole neighborhood. It was epic, Leo conceded, which just means we have to go even bigger next year. He looked up, a glint in his eye. The rivalry is on. I'm already thinking about robotics. I liked being a Ghostbuster, Mia piped up. I pulled her into a hug. Me too, sweetie. And you know what? We might not have the big trophy, but we have a pretty great story. The year we built the perfect costumes and lost to an amusement park ride. You can't make that up. We all laughed. It was true. Winning would have been great. But the shared memory of our jaws hitting the pavement when we saw that roller coaster, that was priceless. The story was better. This was by far our craziest Halloween adventure yet, I said. The bar has been set astronomically high for next year, and we're already brainstorming. If you want to see what we come up with to try and take back the title, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.